Good evening. On your business desk, we start here tonight. South Africa will be hosting the BRICS Summit in just over a month's time, and preparations are well underway. Our business reporter, Ntokozo Khumalo, covered the Progressive Business Forum's BRICS colloquium and caught up with the BRICS Business Council's head of business when it comes to that council in South Africa, Dr Stavros Nicolaou, and this is how that conversation went.
The public and private sector are gearing up for the BRICS Summit and preparing to pull out all the stops. And to give us a little bit more detail on just how prepared we are to host this event, I am now joined by Dr Stavros Nicolaou, who is a member of the BRICS Business Council. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now, preparing for BRICS has been in the works for quite a while. I think as a starting point, with South Africa being the hosting country this year, talk us through how prepared we are and what our mandate is. What is the message that we're putting on the table at this year's BRICS Summit?
I think firstly, let me say that we are responsible as the BRICS Business Council, together with some of the lead agencies in government, to run the business program and the business part of the summit. Of course, there's a political part to the summit, there's a business part. We're responsible, as I said, for the business part of the program. Now, the summit proper is between the 22nd and 24th of August. But at those times and surrounding those dates, we have a number of business activities planned, 32 business activities actually that have been planned. Some of the highlights will be, firstly, the business forum, which takes place on the 23rd, and that will be attended by a number of heads of state. President Ramaphosa will open that. We also are looking at the BRICS Business Council annual general meeting. That's a particular highlight. Another highlight is when the Council presents its report for the work that was done in the preceding 12 months, and that will be a handover to the 5 heads of state, or whoever represents the 5 heads of state. So there's a number of activities, but I think the more important activities are the ones that relate to the working streams that actually carry out the day-to-day work and conduct the business-to-business events, the business contacts that bring the business constituencies closer together. And these online working streams, I'm not going to mention all of them in the interest of brevity, but some of them include agri-processing and agribusiness, infrastructure, financing, manufacturing, and others. Each of those working groups will hold a session. All the counterparts will be present, and then there are a number of side events that will take place of particular relevance right now where we sit as a continent, because there's a particularly strong drive to bring the continent in with us as South Africa. So South Africa is a representative for the continent, particularly now that we've got the African Continental Free Trade Area. So a very important side event is the one on pandemic preparedness and readiness. It's called PPR, and we're expecting a number of health ministers and finance ministers to participate in that particular session. We're still very much in the phase of post-COVID economic recovery, and strengthening healthcare systems is of particular interest to the continent. More importantly is, how do we use these crises that we've just experienced to build capacity on the continent, to industrialize. So these are all the things that we will be seized with. All in all, 32 events at the time of the summit, or preceding or just after the summit. So jam-packed program and still much to do, but we are confident that we will pull off a world-class event here in South Africa.
And just for South Africans at home watching quickly, what is the relevance of the BRICS Summit and why they should really be following some of the discussions that come out of that summit?
Look, BRICS is a fairly new formation. It's around 15 years old. But I think what is relevant here, and I'm talking as a business person, because that's our interest as the business. We represent the business constituency of South Africa and of the other 4 BRIC countries. What is important is to recognize economically where BRICS sits at this point in time. So these are 5 emerging markets. They're going to be expanded. We know this. There will be an expansion. But right now, BRICS in itself represents 31.5% global GDP. So if you compare that to, for example, the G7 formation, which is a very important formation, that represents 30% of global GDP. So you can see BRICS has slightly eclipsed that. So in and within itself, that represents a significant opportunity for businesses, for business people. At a sectorial level, it's important. And I think for us as South Africans, we're better off being on the inside of something like that and taking advantage of it rather than sitting in the periphery. I know it has come with certain risks, which we've recognized in business, but as a business community in South Africa, we are placing the best economic interests of the country ahead of any other consideration. That's what we focused on, and to that end, we've got to also address some of the trade deficits that exist between the 4 BRIC countries and South Africa. So we will be particularly seized with that because we need to even out the patterns of trade as well. So trade has grown by 44% over a 4-year period within BRICS. So the formation is growing, there's no doubt about that. But we've got to present the best business opportunities for our business constituencies here in South Africa, but more broadly in the continent as well.
Thank you so much for painting that picture for us. Of course, that is Dr. Stavros Nicolaou, who is a member of the BRICS Business Council, just talking us through how prepared not only the business community but also the public sector to host the BRICS Summit and have real conversations that will move those trade and investment and business ties further. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Johannesburg.